Hello, it is Carolyn, and I'm doing another one of my elemental report backs for my Ireland trip. And this one is the element of air. And I'm going to bring my little PowerPoint because, of course, you want to see pictures. And um, from start, here we are. Okay, the title, the theme of this one is the knower of symbols. And this is my elemental report back with air. The knower of symbols, it actually is inspired by a Shining Tribe card, Shining Tribe created by Rachel Pollack. And the real name is the knower of birds, but it's that image there, and the figure is receiving all these symbols. And there were a lot of symbols in Ireland that I saw because I was visiting ancient sites, and I was attending a poetry festival. So this really is a trip through about 5,000 years of evolution of symbols from these pictures, like the one you're seeing here, all the way to becoming words in poetry, because poetry uses images and symbols as well. So this is the beginning of our trip. I am starting off this report back with Bruna Boyne. We visited this site, which is in the Boyne Valley, fairly close to Dublin, and it is an ancient site. And you may have heard about Newgrange, you may have heard about the place where the winter solstice light comes in and illuminates passage. Yes, this is the place that we're at. And it was constructed from 3,300 to 2,800 BCE. There, places are kind of showing off their heritage. So they talk about it being older than the pyramids of Giza or Stonehenge. And Bruna Boyne is a whole complex of these passage tombs. It was a place of certainly burial, but also ceremony, celebration of the turning of the seasons. And Knowth is one of the places that has the most of this megalithic art, this art that was carved on rock. Some passage tomb sites in Ireland or the other places that they're in, from Brittany to Spain, have some symbols, but Knowth is highly decorated. The curbstones that go around these huge mounds of earth in which the passages were encased are decorated. Is it decoration? We don't know for certain. Archaeologists don't know. They, of course, have studied, they have theories. And what I'm offering to you today is some out of my experience. I'm not saying that what I say here is, out proven by archaeologists and things like that. This was my experience, and it was wonderful to be able. It's very regulated. You have to buy your ticket for a certain time. You have to go to the bus, which ferries you to the different sites, which are spread out and amidst private land and farms. And we saw cows and sheep. And it's a little bit like, my gosh, what's happening? But what the experience it creates, it's also once you're there at a site, it's not so crowded with people. You can kind of follow along with the tour guide. You're up there. The tour guide at Knowth was like, follow along, listen to me or not. Feel free to kind of wander around. And I did a little of both, listening to the guide, which was giving excellent ideas, and also just my kind of being with these drawings. I actually took out a notebook and because this is my level of drawing, I kind of copied some of them. I went up and I touched the stone top with one finger, which you could do. And it's these spirals. Spirals are famous in the kind of the Celtic. It becomes part of the Celtic. These people are the Neolithic. It's before the Celts. But some of this made with the carving, and also you can see the holes are called cup marks, the different techniques that they use to create these symbols. I'm going to call them symbols. All right, I'm going to go to the next image. Yes, here's just a little closer view of what these meant. And, there are the circles, the spirals, the lozenges, the serpentine images. And there was some discussion of the serpentine images because Snakes have a history with Ireland. St. Patrick is famously said to have driven out the snakes. However, there were no snakes in Ireland. Um, at that time, they were in the glacial period. The snakes could not survive, so like snakes were not Ireland. Um, so what do these things mean? And this is, there's different theories. People have different ideas. The Boyne Valley is named for a goddess, and that formed the river. And I said to myself, looking at this, I'm like, there are no stakes, but this could be a river. The Boyne River flows and goes like that. And we know about Boyne. Yes, here, this is next image is, this is the place, the river Boyne forms the whole Boyne Valley. And Boann is the goddess who the stories that come to us written down by monks, Christian monks. And these are, the pre-Christian stories. So, we have to take what they said with a grain of salt. We have to kind of dig deeper. Some of their judgments may be their judgments of this religion that was different from their own. But Boann was told not to drink from a well, a sacred well, but and to not to move around it in a certain way, counterclockwise, counter sunwise, which she did. She was told this by her husband. She did this anyway, and the water rose up and like swept her away. The idea that she was killed, and it also formed the river. And this large stone here, this tall standing stone, the guy was talking about, this represents Boann, the goddess, the river goddess. And next to it is a smaller stone. This site is actually the Brúna Boyne is dedicated, they talk most about it being dedicated to the sun god, and Dagda, the sun god. It's a place of the sun because it has illumination at the winter solstice. And so here they are together. And I put up this picture because also there's a bird here. And of course, we're in the element of air. Air is about things flying through. So the winged creatures connect to the element of air. And the Shiny Tribe, the name of the air suit is birds. And there were these wonderful swallows that they live in the monuments. And they were swooping all about. I don't know if they're like used to the people, but they would like kind of come out from behind the stones and be flying around. And, they're the living spirits that are there now. So that's something I want to say too, that these are burial sites. Definitely from archaeology, we see that people are buried there. There are things that we might call grave goods, antler bone, beads, things like that. But it also was a place where ritual took place. People came and of, seasonal events they were marking, perhaps other times. So it was a place of the dead, it was a place of the living, and it was a place, I'm saying this, like where they must have connected, right? Okay, let's see what the next image is. Okay, so now the highly decorated stones, what do they mean? Then you go to Newgrange. And Newgrange is the one famously that has the winter solstice and has this amazing curb stone. All these things are called curb stones. Most of the curb stones are decorated at Newgrange. Fewer of the curb stones are decorated, but there's this symbol, which I did not know, this triple spiral symbol, because I've seen it a lot, right? Because it's now a little bit more in our common understanding of symbols, is unique to Newgrange, not just Ireland, but unique to Newgrange. And the idea, formed with one line, making the triple spiral. And once again, because we were in small groups, you actually get to go into the passage of Newgrange. They let you in these small groups. You have to walk in very carefully. At one point, you have to go sideways. If you have like any kind of little bag, you have to kind of hold it down. And then they line you up. You arrive at the end, which has kind of just three, the end is rounded, and then there are two other little bit almost like a rounded room. They're not set off that much. There's a basin in some of them. This basin may have held the dead, and you line up, and they give you an experience of being there on the winter solstice. You know, it's not quite the same, but it still was quite an event. And what happens, we line up, there's a description, then the guide said, is it okay if we shut off the lights? And they do. And for a moment, you're in the darkness. And and it's pretty dark because you're down there in the passage that is as it was when it was constructed. This is not a site where they're like guessing and reconstructing. It totally exists. The roof is there as it was. Amazing architecture from, almost 5,000 years ago. And there is, you're not totally shut off because there's the opening of the passage, but you're further back. They shut off the light, and I felt a welcoming darkness. And then they, using LED lights, right? But they a little bit try to recreate what happens on the solstice. And I'm just going to read a little from the guidebook about the first time this was observed in 1969, and this is the archaeologist M.J. O'Kelly writing about the experience. At exactly 8:54 hours GMT, the top edge of the ball of the sun appeared above the local horizon. And at 8:58 hours, the first pencil of direct sunlight shone through the roof box and along the passage to reach across the tomb chamber floor as far as the front edge of the basin stone in the end recess. As the thin line of light widened to 17-centimeter band and swung across the chamber floor, the tomb was dramatically illuminated, and various details of the side and end recesses could be clearly seen in the light reflected from the floor. At 9:09 hours, the band of light began to narrow again, and at exactly 9:15, the direct beam was cut off from the tomb. For 17 minutes, therefore, at sunrise on the shortest day of the year, direct sunlight can enter Newgrange, not through the doorway, but through the especially contrived slit, which lies above the roof box at the outer end of the passage roof. And this special light box is how we know, the intention of it is like that this was designed to bring this light into this chamber on the winter solstice. It's actually a few days. There's about 5 days when it happens. And here at the beginning, you see that triple spiral. And after we had our experience, they brought the lights back up. And the guide said, and there's another triple spiral in the end recess, and you can come and look at it. So the light travels over this curbstone and into the end of the passage. And I peeked around and saw this triple spiral. This is the end of the passage. This is what is illuminated when the light comes in. It's this pair of the triple spiral. And, some symbols work on us. We're trying to figure out the meaning, and there's some meaning. I interpreted maybe that's a river instead of a snake, symbolizing Boan. And for many years, my symbol of the divine was the triple spiral. And I just turned my head around the corner and looked at it, and I was just with it. It was beyond words and just being in that moment. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And, so who were the decorations for? Who were the symbols for? It may not have been for the living at all. It may have been something they did for the beloved dead, sending in that light to shine upon them. Certainly was not a site where many people would have gone in. So that was Newgrange and the symbols, the unknown symbols, but the symbols working on us, giving us deep meaning. Now I'm moving. Yes. And here I just have another picture of it's called the knower of birds with the knower of symbols. And this would happen to be, I shuffle, I bring a few cards with me in my pocket. when I went and stood by this stone, which has the curves, this is the one that emerged from the handful. And I was like, ah, definitely like this attractor bringing the understanding to me, a great understanding of knowing the symbols. Okay, I think we're moving forward in time now. Yes, the Ballycurvane Ogham Stone at the Beara Peninsula. And this is the largest stone in Ireland, Europe. These Ogham stones. Ogham is an alphabet of marks, just, like kind of slashes, sets of 4 or 5. They go straight, they go slanted, they, connect in different ways. It's an early alphabet. They're connected to trees because each Ogham letter also connects with a tree. And we're moved forward in time to the 4th or 6th century BCE. And these were used, what people talk about is used to mark borders and boundaries. And this one was in someone's field. We had to meet the guardians at the gate to pass forward to it. And the guardians at the gate were cows. They were cows and we were in their field. And, for a moment, I was not sure I was going to be able to get there because it might have been more like a mother cow and a juvenile, wasn't a calf. And I started to kind of move between them, and mother cow did not like that and moved toward me. And I had to move back because, you're in their place. But then there was the movement of the cows, and eventually I made my way up here to this amazing stone. And you can maybe see along the edges, the little markings, and it probably was marking the boundary of a family owned a piece of land, or this was the different kind of clans. The clan is more of a Scottish word, but families. So this marks their territory, and it was awesome. This stone. So here I am in the beginning of writing. I'm a writer. I love to write. So here we are with letters on stone again, being used to mark this territory. And I also visited in Cork. The University of Cork has what they call the Stone Passage, and they have some Ogham stones there, kind of collected there, and talk a little bit about what they mean, and they're trying to translate. And I love this stone. The last name shown here, if translated correctly, means worshiper of the field maple. This was the last name. There was a first name on the stone, and then the last name given, and they're like trying to figure out what the Ogham means. They think, well, maybe it means worshiper of the field maple. Imagine that's your name. That becomes your name, and how that connects you to identity, connects you to the sacred earth. So that was my thinking about, our names. Our names are symbols. We don't really necessarily think about them that way, but they have come to us, and the worshiper of the field maple is maybe what this one says. All right, now I'm jumping way forward in time. I went to the Cork International Poetry Festival when that was the start of my trip, and it was poets from around the world. Certainly there were Irish poets, but there were also from Germany and Wales and the Czech Republic and Australia, and some wonderful poets from the United States. They really want to, it's an outward looking festival, not just inward working to Ireland. And so now we're into words written down, no earth symbols. Our marks on stone become letters, become the alphabet, become how we write poetry. And there was some amazing poetry, and I'm just going to share a little bit with you, just like the tiniest bit, and some I think will work into other videos too. But this was my air week. Yes, this was my air week. This was my air week. Going toward the solstice, I spend the week going up earth, air, water, fire to kind of culminate in some solstice ritual. But I pull 3 cards each week related to the elements. I pull a major arcana card from the tarot. You know that. Don't worry too much. But you have to know these technical things. So this was my major arcana, it's kind of my path of the week, which was the temperance card. And in this, I mean, you just look at the image, you see like the water is definitely highlighted here. There's this river, there's the fish. Traditionally, temperance is often about combining water and fire. But water is really highlighted in this. And Trin Paha was the Estonian poet who I heard and just had wonderful lines, wonderful nature presence and imagery. And listening to her poetry, I wrote down just a few little pearls, I call them. And what are the names of the dead? So I wrote that down in my notebook, and then when I came home, I made this set of cards and I shuffled them and I pulled them at random, So this one, what are the names of the dead, came up right here with temperance. So there's some, attraction between the image, like our images that we looked at the beginning, and the words. The next card that we have here is Nine of Birds. And this is the entrance to the underworld. It's how, and the great goddess is here providing it. It's not a passage tomb as in Ireland. This is more inspired by Greek imagery, this Rachel Pollack Shining Tribe card. But this is, the entrance to the other world, to the world below, the place where the dead dwell. And the card that I drew at random, is the desert is the place we can visit death and return home safely. Which was just a quote that struck me. And it was quoted, it's Ibrahim Al-Khani, but it's quoted by the poet that I heard reading, Andre Nafis Shmaili. And here we are, there's the desert is the place we can visit death and return home safely. That was what I had written down. It also has me thinking about just Bruneboyne and this passage tunes and our seasonal holidays, that there are places where we can visit death, we can visit our beloved dead and return home safely. It is not closed off to us, this relationship with our beloved dead, with the other world. Finally, this image, Place of Birds. This is the bird flying above, and only because the bird is flying above can it see the pattern of the labyrinth. The idea of the labyrinth is there's always a pathway to the center. You just have to trust and follow it. And this pathway, this labyrinth is on multiple hillsides. The only way you can see it is you kind of rise above. And the line that emerged is from Fatima Ashgar, US poet and also TV producer, a Renaissance person for sure. What can't be erased, even when it is erased, which was so powerful to me. This was the phrase that kept coming up that week. And it made me think about so much, Bruneboyne for, it was not used continuously. There were thousands of years where no one was there. And it was only in the 1600s that people kind of started to go there again and look in, and there's a cave, there's something happening. So it had been erased, but it was not erased. And now it is appearing for us. I think of different things, the great goddess, erased, but certainly not erased, still that presence with us. This labyrinth, sacred sites in Greece, this card is inspired by Greece, are still there for us. Or I think Native American poets I have heard talk about continuance. They have been through genocide, and yet their culture continues and evolves and becomes modern. So what can't be erased, even when it is erased, is some of the wisdom from this little talk, my experience with air, my experiences in Ireland. And finally, this image. Maybe I just wanted to end on this image because it's so very beautiful, but it also, I think it's a culminating, our working with symbol, our desire to write and express and share, our communication. It's also, we want to be with scribe, to know, to hold on to this beautiful, ineffable spirit, numinous, the divine, however you name it. And this image of a church with the walls fallen, the roof fallen in, the windows gone, probably built on an even more ancient site. There it is. it perseveres, it continues to inspire, as does air. So that is my air sharing. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll try and get water up soon. Okay, bye-bye.